Spain in summer was a furnace, the kind that bakes secrets into the earth until they cracked open underfoot. I'd come here 10 years ago, fresh out of a botched marriage back in Seattle, chasing the myth of reinvention in a land where the sun never apologized for its fire. Andalusia, with its whitewashed villages and endless olive groves, felt like the perfect place to disappear. Or so I thought. That's when I met Soraya Voss, the American expat who'd carved out a life here that was equal parts exile and empire. She was 40 then, a former Marine turned private security consultant, her body a map of discipline and old wounds, her green eyes holding the weight of command she'd never unlearn. We collided at a flamenco bar in Granada, me nursing a sangria and a grudge against the world, her scanning the room like it was enemy territory. "You're American," she'd said, sliding onto the stool next to me, her voice low and laced with that East Coast edge. "New York, maybe, or somewhere it snowed hard and unforgiving." No question mark. It was a statement, an invitation wrapped in certainty. "Yeah," I'd replied, meeting her gaze, feeling the pull of it like gravity. "Running from the rain." She'd laughed, a sound like gravel under tires, and bought me another drink. By midnight, we were stumbling through the narrow cobblestone streets, her hand on the small of my back, guiding me like she owned the night. It wasn't love, not then. It was collision, two women adrift, finding harbor in each other's storm. But harbors have anchors, and Soraya's was buried deep. Her real love, the one she'd left stateside, was Elena. A ghost of a woman who'd shattered her heart in a way that left shrapnel. Elena, the artist with the wild curls and wilder promises, who'd chosen a gallery opening in Paris over their life in Quantico. Soraya never said her name without it tasting like ash, but she carried her like a locket pressed against her skin. I became the key to that locket, the one who turned it just enough to let in light, but never the one who got to keep the contents. For 10 years I was her substitute. We built a villa on the outskirts of Ronda, perched on a cliffside overlooking the Guadalevin Gorge, where the river carved secrets into the rock below. Mornings were ours. Me brewing coffee strong as the espresso I'd learned to love here, her reviewing contracts for her security firm, protecting diplomats, celebrities, anyone with enough money to fear the shadows. Afternoons we'd hike the Serranias, her stories of deployments in the desert pulling me closer, my sketches of the landscapes filling the silence. Nights were where the lines blurred. Her touch was urgent, reverent, like she was mapping me to forget another. I'd whisper her name into the curve of her neck, tasting salt and sun, and pretend it was enough. It wasn't, of course. Not for her. I knew it in the way she'd stare at her phone during dinners, the screen lighting her face with a hope that dimmed when it wasn't Elena's name. I'd catch her in the study, tracing old photos with fingers that trembled. "Just echoes," she'd say if I asked, pulling me close to drown the question. And I'd let her, because loving Soraya meant loving her fractures, mending them with my own hands until they bled. The first crack came 3 years in, when Elena's postcard arrived, postmarked from Lisbon, a watercolor of the Tagus River splashed across the front. "Thinking of you," it read, no return address. Soraya burned it in the fireplace that night, the flames licking the words away, but the smoke lingered in her eyes for months. We fought then, our first real one. Me accusing her of building walls, her snapping that some walls kept the world out. "You're here, Parker. Isn't that enough?" she demanded, her voice breaking on the edge of plea. It was for a while. We traveled, Seville's Alcazar, Cordoba's Mezquita. Her arm around my waist like a claim, my laughter pulling her from the brink. I started teaching English at the local school, filling my days with wide-eyed kids who mangled idioms and made me feel rooted. Soraya watched me with that quiet pride, the kind that made my chest ache. "You make this place feel like home," she'd murmur, her lips brushing my temple. Home. The word hung between us, fragile as spun glass. But substitutes don't get deeds to the house. They get leases, renewable at her whim. And whims, I learned, could shift like the Mistral winds off the strait. The rookie soldier arrived on a Tuesday in late spring, the air thick with jasmine and the promise of heat. His name was Alex Rivera, mid-20s, fresh from basic at Fort Bragg, with a jaw like chiseled granite and eyes that held the reckless fire of youth. Soraya's firm had hired him for a protection detail in Malaga. Some tech mogul's yacht party, but he stayed. Showed up at our villa unannounced one evening, helmet under his arm, uniform crisp as new money. "Ma'am," he'd said to her, all deference and dimples. Just dropping off the after-action report. She'd waved him in, poured him a glass of Rioja like he was family. I watched from the kitchen doorway, stirring paella that suddenly tasted like ash. He was everything she wasn't. Unscarred, eager. A mirror to the woman she'd buried under layers of command. They talked shop, tactics, threats, the brotherhood of the uniform, and I saw it happen, that spark. Her laugh, genuine and unguarded, the one I thought was mine alone. Over the next weeks, Alex became a fixture. Training the kid, she'd say, dismissing my unease with a kiss that lingered too long, as if to apologize. But I saw the late nights, the texts lighting her phone at dawn. Saw how she'd straighten her collar before meetings with him. How her stories now wove in his name like thread in a tapestry. I confronted her one evening on the terrace, the gorge yawning below us like a warning. Who's he to you, Soraya? Really? She'd looked at me then, her green eyes hardening like sea glass. He's nothing. A colleague. You know better than to question that. But I did know better. Knew the way her voice softened when she mentioned his deployments, the dreams he'd chased since enlisting at 18. Knew because I'd been that once. The bright-eyed one, filling spaces she couldn't name. The betrayal came swift as a summer storm. I found them in the study, not touching, but close enough that the air hummed with it. Alex, leaning over her desk, his hand on her shoulder as they pored over maps. Her face tilted up to his, that vulnerable curve of her mouth I'd kissed 1,000 times. The door creaked under my weight, and they sprang apart, but the damage was etched. Parker, she started, but I was already turning, the journal in my hand, the one I'd filled with sketches of us, words I'd never spoken, clutched like a shield. That night I packed a bag. Not everything. Just enough to walk away clean. The knife in the kitchen was for the oranges, but it felt like severance when it fell. Her words chased me out. If you walk out that door. I did. And the wrath? It was coming, I knew. But freedom tasted like dust and dawn, and for the first time in 10 years it was all mine. The road from Rhonda twisted like a vein through the hills, my old Jeep rattling over potholes that mirrored the thud in my chest. I didn't cry, not then. Crying was for the villa, for the woman who'd made me her echo. Instead, I cranked the radio. Some American rock station bleeding through static, Bruce Springsteen howling about thunder roads and broken promises. Fitting, I thought, as the first rain spat against the windshield. I aimed for Seville, a city big enough to swallow me whole. Checked into a pension near the cathedral, the room smelling of lemon polish and regret. Sleep came in fits, dreams of Soraya's hands on me, then Alex's shadow eclipsing them. By morning my phone buzzed, her number, a text. Where are you? We need to talk. I deleted it. Then the calls started. Voicemails, her voice cracking the armor. Parker, this is insane. Come home. Home. There it was again, that word like a hook in my gut. But I wandered instead. Seville's streets were a labyrinth of tapas bars and guitar strums, tourists oblivious to the ache threading through me. I sat in Plaza de España, sketching the bridges that spanned a moat of green water, each arch a reminder of crossings I'd never make again. A street vendor sold me a fan painted with flamenco dancers, their skirts swirling like flames. For the heat, señorita, he said, but it was the cold inside I couldn't shake. Days blurred. I found work at a cafe in Triana, pouring café con leche for locals who eyed my American accent with polite curiosity. Nights, I'd walk the riverfront, the Guadalquivir murmuring secrets to the bridges. One evening, under the Torre del Oro, I met Lena, a potter with hands dusted in clay, her laugh like bells in the wind. She was Spanish through and through, dark hair braided with ribbons, eyes that saw too much. You're carrying the weight of the world, she said over glasses of Tinto de Verano, her fingers brushing mine as she passed the olives. Something like that, I replied, the truth slipping out in fragments. The villa, the years, the rookie who'd stolen what wasn't his to take. She listened, no judgment, just nods that felt like absolution. Love isn't a contract, Parker. It's a choice renewed every day. She chose wrong. Now you choose you. Her words lodged in me, a seed in cracked soil. We met again, walks turning to dinners, her studio a haven of wheels and glazes where I shaped my first bowl. Hands trembling but sure. It wasn't passion, not yet, but it was possibility, a light cracking through the storm. Meanwhile, Soraya's wrath brewed. It started with the emails, professional at first, then laced with barbs. The firm's accounts need your signature. Or are you too busy playing house? Then the calls to my new number. How she'd found it I didn't know. This isn't over, Parker. You owe me more than a ghosting. Oh, the word festered. 10 years of meals cooked, beds warmed, silences filled. But love didn't tally debts. It paid in presents. Hers had waned, replaced by Alex's shine. The confrontation came unbidden. A week after the full moon. I'd stepped out of the cafe, the evening air thick with orange blossoms, when her Jeep screeched to a halt at the curb. She was out before I could bolt, her face a storm cloud. Eyes flashing, jaw set like it was parade rest. Parker, she growled, striding toward me. Close enough I could smell her. Leather and lavender, the scent of home I'd fled. Soraya, how did you? Doesn't matter. We talk. Now. The cafe's owner, Maria, poked her head out, but one look at Soraya's stance and she vanished. I nodded toward the river, needing space, needing air. We walked in silence, the path winding under willows that wept into the water. Finally she stopped, whirling on me. 10 years, Parker. 10 goddamn years, and you just vanish? Like I meant nothing. You meant everything. I shot back, voice steady despite the quake inside. That's why it hurts. You replaced me with him. A rookie. Like I was. Temporary. Her laugh was bitter, wind-whipped. Alex? He's a kid, Parker. A distraction. You think I'd throw us away for that? But I saw the lie in her eyes, the flicker of truth she couldn't bury. I saw you with him. The way you light up. It's what I wanted for you. But not at my expense. She stepped closer, her hand reaching for mine. Calluses rough from years of holding guns and hearts. I was lost. Elena's ghost. Choked me. You were my heir. Alex. He's just noise. Noise that drowned me out. Tears pricked, hot and unwelcome. I can't be your substitute anymore, Soraya. I deserve the whole story, not the sequel. The river rushed on, indifferent. She pulled me into her arms then, fierce and familiar, her breath hitching against my hair. Don't make me beg, Parker. Come back. We'll fix this. But fixing meant forgetting, and I couldn't. Not when Lena's laugh echoed in my mind, a new rhythm to chase. I stepped back, gentle but firm. I need time. Real time. Away from the villa's shadows. Her face crumpled, wrath flashing to something raw or fear. You'll regret this. Maybe, I whispered. But regret's better than resentment. She drove off into the night, taillights fading like dying stars. I stood there, the fan in my pocket heavy as a promise, wondering if freedom was just another cage I'd build myself. Seville held me for a month, a balm of bustle and beauty. Lena and I deepened. Lazy afternoons in her studio, my sketches mingling with her pots, conversations that flowed like the river at our feet. She taught me to throw clay, hands over mine, her patience a quiet strength. Feel the center, she'd say, and I'd laugh because for the first time I did my own. But Soraya's shadow lingered. Letters arrived, handwritten on villa stationery, words pouring out like confessions. Memories of our first hike, the time we danced in the rain during a feria. I miss your sketches on the fridge, your coffee in the morning. Alex was a mistake, Parker. A way to feel young again. But you're mine now. I burned them in a Plaza Fountain's basin, the flames dancing with streetlights. Alex called once, voice young and earnest. I didn't mean to. She's hurting, Parker. Bad. Good. I'd snapped, hanging up before guilt could root. The climax built slow, a pressure cooker of unspoken grief. It erupted in Rhonda, of all places, neutral ground, the town where we'd first dreamed of forever. Lena had a market there, selling her wares, and I'd gone to support, our fingers laced under the table at a roadside cafe. That's when Soraya appeared, not alone. Alex at her side, arm slung casual over her shoulder, but his eyes darted, guilty. The world narrowed to that table, the air thick as the gorge's mist. Soraya's gaze locked on mine, then flicked to Lena's hand in mine. Betrayal doubled, mirrored. Parker, she said, voice ablade. We need to. No. I stood, chair scraping like thunder. You brought him. Here. After everything. Alex shifted, uncomfortable. This isn't. Shut it, rookie. I hissed, the words tasting like victory and venom. Soraya's face twisted, wrath uncoiling. You moved on fast. With her. She nodded at Lena, disdain curling her lip. Some artisan fling to forget me? Lena rose, fierce as a bull. She's not forgetting. She's living. The market hushed, vendors pausing mid-haggle. Soraya stepped forward, close enough for war. 10 years, Parker. You think a month erases that? It erases the lie, I countered, heart hammering. You chose him. I chose truth. Alex tugged her arm. Soraya, let's go. But she shrugged him off, eyes blazing. You left me. Triggered this mess. If you'd stayed. Stayed to watch you replace me? No. Tears came then, hot tracks down my cheeks. I loved you enough to let go. The crowd murmured, a flamenco guitar strumming distant heartbreak. Soraya's wrath cracked, vulnerability seeping through. I still love you, she whispered, voice breaking. That's the problem. Lena's hand found mine again, anchor. Love isn't possession, Soraya. It's release. She recoiled as if slapped, then turned, Alex trailing like a shadow. Their jeep peeled away, dust clouding the air like a veil. I sank to the chair, Lena's arms around me, the gorge whispering below. The conflict peaked there, raw and rinsing, leaving space for what came next. Healing in Spain wasn't linear. It was a spiral, dipping back into old wounds before climbing toward light. After Rhonda, Lena and I retreated to her apartment in Triana, a sunlit space cluttered with half-fired bowls and sketchpads that now held my tentative lines, portraits of her, laughing, hands in clay. We didn't rush. Our nights were talks over gazpacho, her stories of growing up in a family of gypsy artisans weaving through mine of rainy Pacific Northwest childhoods. You're like the Mistral, she said one evening, tracing my collarbone with a potter's finger. You stir things up, make them new. I wanted to believe it. But Soraya's letters kept coming, now laced with desperation. The villa's empty without you. Alex left. Said he couldn't compete with ghosts. Come see for yourself. Ghost. That's what I'd been, I realized, and now she was haunting me. I wrote back once, a single page. Let the ghosts rest, Soraya. We both deserve peace. Mailed it from a post office in the Barrio Santa Cruz, the stamps featuring Moorish tiles like fragments of our shared history. Summer deepened, festivals blooming like wildfires. The Feria de Abril had passed, but echoes lingered in the casetta's music, the clip-clop of horses on parade. Lena pulled me into one, a makeshift tent pulsing with Belarius, her hips swaying against mine in the crowd. For a moment I forgot, the press of bodies, the strum of guitar, her breath warm on my neck. It was alive, electric, a far cry from the villa's quiet tensions. But peace is a jealous lover, and Soraya's wrath wasn't sated. It manifested in subtler ways. My bank accounts frozen, tied to joint assets I'd overlooked in my haste. Calls to the firm, her voice cool over the line. Sign the papers, Parker. Or I'll make this harder. Harder meant lawyers, meant dragging our decade through courts in a country that still whispered about those American women in the village. I hired a solicitor in Seville, a wiry man named Javier with a mustache like a broom and eyes that missed nothing. This Voss woman, she fights like a toro, he said, flipping through documents. But you've got heart. That's your blade. The meetings drained me, hours in stuffy offices overlooking the Alcazar, negotiating what was mine. The Jeep, half the savings, the sketches I'd left behind. Soraya countered every move. Her responses typed with military precision. You're taking my soul, Parker. Dramatic, yes, but it stung because part of me wondered if it was true. Lena was my constant. Her studio a sanctuary where we'd shape clay until our hands ached. Metaphors for mending. One afternoon, as thunder rumbled over the Sierra Morena, she pressed a misshapen vase into my palms. It's not perfect, she said, but it's yours. Flaws and all. I kissed her then, soft and searching, the rain pattering like applause. It wasn't Soraya's urgency. It was steady like the Guadalquivir's flow. We made love that night, gentle explorations under a ceiling fan's lazy spin. Her body a landscape of curves and confidence. No ghosts in the room, just us, two women choosing presence over past. Yet the drama coiled tighter. Word came from Rhonda. Soraya had sold the villa, the for sale sign a dagger in old photos I'd seen online. Buyers from Madrid, they said, eager for the views. She'd moved to a flat in the old town, closer to the firm, her life contracting like a fist. I drove there once, unannounced, the gorge a blur of green and gray, parked outside the wrought iron gate, watching shadows move behind curtains. Was Alex there? No, he'd shipped out to a posting in Gibraltar. Rumor had it. Chasing adventures that didn't include broken hearts. But Soraya. She stepped onto the balcony, cigarette in hand, staring at the horizon like it held answers. Our eyes met across the distance. She froze, then turned away, the door clicking shut like finality. Back in Seville, the conflict escalated. Javier called. She's contesting the Jeep, says it's firm property. And the sketches, she wants them back. Claims emotional distress. Emotional distress. The irony burned. I met her at a neutral spot. A cafe in Antequera, midway between our worlds, the air heavy with the scent of migas frying nearby. She arrived early, seated at a corner table, her auburn hair pulled back, silver threads catching the light like warnings. Thinner, I noted, the lines around her eyes deeper, as if sleep had become a casualty. "Parker," she said as I sat, no warmth, just the old command slipping through. "Soraya. Let's keep this civil." Her laugh was hollow. "Civil? After you ripped my heart out?" I leaned forward, elbows on the scarred wood. "You did that first. With him." Alex was a lapse. A stupid, lonely lapse. Her fingers drummed the table, a tick from briefings. I pushed him away. Told him about us, really about us. He couldn't handle the depth. Depth. The word hung, heavy with what we'd shared. Hikes where she'd confessed fears of aging alone. Nights I'd held her through nightmares of sand and screams. Then why fight me on everything? The villa, the accounts. It's punishment, Soraya. Her eyes flashed green fire. Punishment? It's survival. You left me exposed, Parker. 10 years and poof gone. Like I was the rookie. The server brought cortados, the porcelain clinking like fragile truces. I sipped, bitter as truth. You made me feel like one. Always waiting for Elena's ghost to fade. "Elena's gone," she snapped, voice low to avoid stares. "Has been since Paris. You were my choice. Every day. Until you weren't." I pulled out the papers, sliding them across. "Sign. Let me go." She stared at them, then at me, wrath softening to something achingly human. Regret, raw and unarmored. "I can't. Not without fighting for us." The cafe blurred, patrons chatter, a distant hum. "There is no us anymore. I have Lena. She's real." Her face paled, a wound opening. "Lena. The potter. Does she know you? The parts that break at 3 a.m., the stories you can't tell civilians. She knows enough. And she's learning the rest." My voice steadied, a bridge I'd crossed alone. "You taught me to love deeply, Soraya. Now I'm using it on someone who sees me whole." She signed then, pen scratching like claws on bone. "You'll come back," she said, pushing the papers over, her hand brushing mine, electric farewell. "When the novelty wears off. Maybe," I lied, "to spare us both. Or maybe I'll finally live." I left her there, the cafe's door chiming like a bell tolling ends. Driving back, the highway unspooled under tires that felt lighter. The radio crooning Lana Del Rey. American melancholy in a Spanish sky. Fall crept in. Leaves turning gold on the cork oaks. Festivals shifting to vendimia harvests where we'd crush grapes underfoot in laughter long ago. Lena and I joined one in Jerez, feet stained purple. Her body pressed to mine in the crush, joy bubbling like the wine. It was romantic, this new chapter. Picnics in the Danana Dunes. Her teaching me Sevillana's steps that left us breathless and tangled. But humanism demands reckoning. And mine came in waves. Dreams of Soraya, not angry but small, curled on our old bed, whispering apologies. I'd wake to Lena's arm around me, grounding, but the ache lingered, a scar's tender pull. The turning point hit during All Saints' Day. The air crisp with marigolds and candle smoke. I'd gone to the cemetery in Seville, not for Soraya but for closure, a ritual of my own making. Placed a sketch there of the gorge at dawn, words scrawled. "To the woman who taught me love's edges. Thank you. Goodbye." As I turned to leave, my phone rang, unknown number. Hesitant, I answered. "Parker? It's Alex." Surprise stilled me. "What do you want?" A pause, wind in the background, Gibraltar's rock, maybe. "Soraya. She's not okay. Crashed her Jeep last week. Minor, but she's spiraling. Talks about you non-stop. My heart clenched, old instincts flaring. She has people. The firm. Not like you. His voice cracked, young and earnest. I was the idiot who thought I could fill that. But she needs her anchor. Anchor. The word pulled, but I resisted. Tell her. Tell her I wish her healing. Real healing. I hung up, the cemetery's quiet pressing in. Lena found me later, sitting on the riverbank, marigolds wilting in my lap. Old ghosts? She asked, settling beside me. Learning to let them fade. I leaned into her, the Guadalquivir's flow a lullaby. That night we talked deep, unhurried, about fear's futures. I'm falling for you, I admitted, voice small in the dark. Her smile lit the room. Good. Because I've been waiting. Romance bloomed then, petals unfurling in the autumn light. We planned a trip to the Costa Brava, just us, beaches and books, no shadows trailing. Soraya's final act of wrath, or was it grace? Arrived by courier a week later. A package, no note. Inside, my sketches framed in simple wood, and the journal I'd left behind. Tucked in its pages, a photo of us at the feria, arms linked, faces alight. On the back, in her precise script, you were never substitute. You were the story. Forgive me. Tears came, cathartic rain. I hung the frames in Lena's apartment, not hiding but honoring. The conflict resolved not in explosion, but erosion, time wearing down the sharp edges until what remained was smooth, bearable. Winter whispered in with the first frosts on the Sierra Nevada, but our world warmed. Christmas markets in Seville glittered with lights and mantecados, Lena and I weaving through stalls hand in hand, stealing kisses amid the mulled wine steam. Soraya faded to memory, a chapter closed with care. Yet drama lingers in the blood, and one last twist awaited. A letter from Javier. The villa sale proceeds, half mine, wired without contest. She said it was always yours, he noted. The heart of it. I donated most to a women's shelter in Ronda, the kind that helped expats rebuild. Humanistic, yes, turning pain to purpose. As New Year dawned, fireworks over the Giralda Tower, Lena pulled me close. To stories unfinished, she toasted. Unfinished, I echoed, tasting possibility. 10 years as substitute had taught me love's cost. Now I was writing my own, page by page, with a woman who saw the whole book. Spring returned to Andalusia like a prodigal, wildflowers carpeting the fields in defiant color. Pops of red poppies and yellow retama against the eternal green of olives. Lena and I had settled into a rhythm, our lives intertwining like the vines on her balcony trellis. She sold her pots at markets from Cadiz to Córdoba, me illustrating travel guides for a small publisher in Madrid, my sketches now capturing not just landscapes, but the quiet intimacies of two women building a life. Our apartment overlooked the Triana Bridge, the river below a constant companion, reflecting sunrises that painted the sky in hues of rose and gold. But peace, I've learned, is the shadow side of drama, always threatening to deepen into something more. Soraya's silence had been a gift, but gifts from her came wrapped in barbs. It started with a phone call from an unknown number, mid-morning as I inked a drawing of the Alhambra's arches. Parker, hail. The voice was clipped, official Spanish accent, but with that bureaucratic chill. Yes. This is Inspector Ruiz, Policia Nacional, Ronda Precinct. Regarding Soraya Vaz. There's been an incident. My pen stilled, ink blotting the page like spilled blood. What happened? A domestic disturbance. She's been detained briefly. Requests you as contact. Domestic. The word conjured ghosts, nights of raised voices, not ours but echoes from her past. I'm not her emergency contact anymore. A pause, papers rustling. She insists. Says you're the only one who understands. I hung up, heart racing, the blot spreading like doubt. Lena found me staring at the wall, her hands gentle on my shoulders. Go, she said simply. Not for her. For you. To close the door proper. The drive to Ronda was a blur. The 374 snaking through hills that once felt like lovers' curves, now just road. The gorge mocked me, its depths whispering of falls we'd never taken. At the station, a squat building baking under the sun, Soraya waited in a holding room, hair disheveled, a bruise blooming on her cheek like a misplaced kiss. Parker, she breathed, rising as I entered, chains rattling softly on her wrists. No wrath this time. Just weariness, the kind that hollows eyes. What the hell, Soraya? I kept distance, arms crossed like armor. She sank back, gesturing to the chair. Sit. Please. I did, wary. The inspector had briefed me outside. A neighbor's call, shouts from her flat. No weapons, no assault, just her raging at shadows, a bottle shattered against the wall. Bereavement, he'd called it, but we both knew better. Elena, she started, voice threadbare. She showed up. Out of nowhere. In Rhonda of all places. Staying at some boutique hotel. Reconciling old haunts. Elena. The name landed like a stone in still water. Ripples disturbing everything. And I went. Drunk on memories, stupid. We talked God, Parker, it was like time folded. But she came with demands. Money for her art career. Absolution for Paris. When I said no. Her hand touched the bruise. Self-inflicted in the scuffle. Mirror shards her enemy. You lost it. Lost everything. Tears tracked clean paths through the dust on her face. Alex gone, you gone now this. I'm 47, Parker. What am I without the fight? The room closed in, fluorescent buzz like a swarm. I wanted anger, easy blame, but saw only the woman I'd loved, fractured, human, reaching. You have the firm. Friends. Rebuild. She laughed, wet and broken. Rebuild? On what? Substitutes. The word stung, mirror to my old wound. Don't. You don't get to play victim now. Her eyes met mine, green depths churning. I was wrong. About Alex, about holding you as placeholder. You were the real thing, Parker. I see it now, too late. Too late. The drama peaked here, not in screams but sighs, the slow unraveling of a life built on control. I called Javier from the lobby, he pulled strings. She was released with a warning, community service at a local shelter. As we stepped into sunlight, her arm brushed mine, tentative. Ride with me to the flat? She asked. Just to pack. I'm leaving Rhonda. Starting over in Barcelona, maybe. I nodded, the Jeep's engine a familiar growl. The drive was quiet, radio off, the gorge sliding past like old film. At her flat. A stark space stripped of our villa's warmth. She packed boxes with mechanical efficiency, me handing her tape like a reluctant aide. In the bedroom she paused at a drawer, pulling out a necklace, simple silver, a pendant of intertwined olives. Yours, she said, pressing it into my palm. From our first harvest. Keep it. Remember the good. I slipped it on, the weight settling like forgiveness. You too, Soraya. Find your good. She hugged me then, brief and bone-crushing, her scent unchanged. Tell Lena. She's lucky. Outside as I drove away, she stood in the doorway, smaller against the frame, waving until the curve swallowed her. Back in Seville, Lena waited with paella and questions I answered in halves. It's done, I said, necklace glinting. The door's closed. She traced it with a finger, eyes soft. Then let's open new ones. Summer hummed again. Our love deepening into something romantic and rooted. We took that Costa Brava trip, renting a casita in Cadax, where Dolly's ghosts wandered whitewashed streets. Mornings we'd swim in coves of turquoise water, her laughter echoing off cliffs. Afternoons sketching each other on the beach, sand gritting our pages. One evening under a sky bruised purple, she carved our initials into a driftwood branch, tossing it to the waves. Promises to the sea, she murmured. It was humanistic, this love as ritual, not conquest. No betrayals shadowed us, just the steady build of trust. I sent Soraya a postcard from there. A photo of the bay, words simple. Healing looks good on you. Be free. Her reply came weeks later, a card from Barcelona. A gaudy spire-piercing blue. It does. Thank you for the push. All my best, always. The betrayal's echo faded, replaced by gratitude. But life scripts twists and ours came gentle. Lena's proposal. Not with rings but a shared studio space she'd leased. Walls wide for two artists' dreams. Build with me, she asked, paint on her cheek. Yes, I whispered, sealing it with a kiss that tasted like forever. Yet emotion demands depth, and mine stirred when autumn leaves fell again. A gallery in Granada reached out, my illustrations for a book on Andalusian women, strong and scarred. The opening was intimate, wine flowing under Moorish lamps, Lena at my side in a dress of emerald silk. That's when Soraya appeared. uninvited but not unwelcome. Dressed in linen, hair cropped short, silver embracing rather than hiding. "Parker," she said, hugging me light as air. "Proud of you." We talked surface at first, then deeper, her therapy in Barcelona, a security gig for NGOs now, channeling old skills to good. "No more substitutes," she said, eyes clear. "Just me learning to stand alone." And Alex? Gone to his own wars. We wrote letters, closure, not romance. Lena joined us, gracious, the three of us toasting under stars. No jealousy, just women who'd walked fire and emerged kinder. As the night wound down, Soraya pulled me aside. "You triggered my wrath, Parker. But also my awakening." I smiled, necklace warm against skin. "Good. Wrath makes for better stories." She left then, into the night, her stride sure. Lena and I walked home arm in arm, the Albaicins hills cradling us. Winter brought quiet joys. Holidays with Lena's family in a cortijo near Osuna. Tables groaning under jamon and stories in rapid Andalus. I sketched them all, grandmothers with laugh lines, cousins with guitars, feeling woven in, not as outsider but kin. The year turned, and with it our first anniversary. We returned to the feria grounds, no crowds, just us dancing sevillanas to a portable speaker, steps clumsy but full. "To 10 years from now," Lena toasted, eyes shining. "More," I added, pulling her close. But the past, ever the dramatist, sent one final act. A package from Barcelona. Soraya's old marine jacket, patched and faded, with a note. "For the cold nights. Wear it well. You've earned your stripes." I draped it over Lena's shoulders that evening, as rain tapped the windows. "From an old life," I explained. She modeled it, fierce and funny. "Suits me. But you feel it best." We laughed, the sound chasing shadows away. Love, I realized, wasn't replacement but expansion. Room for scars, for stories layered like sedimentary rock. Spring bloomed anew, our studio alive with clay and charcoal. I illustrated a children's book on Spanish heroines, women of valor, from Isabella to modern makers. Lena's pots held my pages, a collaborative exhibit in Triana drawing crowds who whispered of that American and her muse. Soraya visited once for the opening, her Barcelona life blooming. A partner now, a quiet architect named Marta, met at a cafe lecture. "Steady," she described, smile genuine. "Like you deserve." We four dined after, tapas and tales, bridges built over old chasms. No wrath, just warmth, the humanistic heart of it all. Forgiveness as freedom. As summer crested, Lena and I hiked the Camino de Santiago's southern variant, backpacks light, hearts full. Blisters bonded us, albergs shared stories under stars. At Finisterre, the world's end, we burned a feather from Ronda, symbol of flight. "New beginnings," Lena said, ashes scattering on wind. "Endless," I agreed, her hand in mine. 10 years as substitute had forged me. Leaving had freed me. Now in Spain's embrace, I loved without ledger, deep, dramatic, alive. The rhythm of our life in Seville became a song I never tired of humming. Mornings with Lena's coffee, strong and sweet with a dash of cinnamon she'd insist was essential for the soul. Afternoons lost in creation, evenings wandering the Guadalquivir's banks where street lamps cast halos on the water like misplaced halos. But romance, in its truest form, isn't without its undercurrents of drama. It's the emotional tides that pull you deeper, testing the anchors you've set. Ours came not from betrayal's sharp edge, but from the slow seep of vulnerability, the kind that asks, "Are you still here when the glamour fades?" It started subtly, that autumn after Finisterre. Lena's family, boisterous and boundless, had always been a whirlwind of acceptance, but whispers reached us, village talk of the foreign artist stealing our girl. Nothing overt, just sidelong glances at markets. A cousin's hesitant invite to a baptism. Lena brushed it off, her laugh a shield. "They're just jealous of your pancakes, amor." But I saw the weight in her shoulders, the way she'd linger over family calls, voice pitched higher. One night, after a heated dinner where her uncle made a joke about American wanderers, she unraveled. We were in the studio, clay dust settling like snow, when she hurled a malformed bowl at the wall, shards exploding like her silence. "It's not fair," she spat back to me, hands fisted. "I love you, fiercely, fully, and they see shadows. Like you're temporary, like Soraya's ghost makes you less." I crossed the room, careful, gathering her into arms that trembled. "I'm not temporary. And neither is this. My voice cracked, the old fear surfacing. Had I brought my fractures here, infecting her world? She turned, eyes wet but fierce. Then fight with me. Show them. We did. The next family gathering, a romeria in the hills near Carmona, I spoke up, halting Spanish weaving through songs of commitment, sketches I'd made of her kin tucked into pockets like talismans. Parker's family now, I said, hand in Lena's. Not by blood but by choice. And choice is the strongest tie. Her grandmother, wizened as an olive tree, nodded slow, pulling me into a hug that smelled of lavender and earth. Bienvenida, hija. Welcome. The dam broke then. Tears and toasts, the drama resolving in embraces under cork oaks strung with lights. But emotions tide ebbs and flows, and mine pulled inward next. Soraya's necklace, once a talisman, began to chafe literally, the silver warming to a rash on my skin. I confided in Lena one dawn, as we watched barges glide past our window. It's not her, I said, twisting it off. It's the reminder. 10 years. I thought I'd buried it. Lena's fingers traced the mark, gentle as rain. Burying isn't forgetting. Honor it, then let it rest. We drove to the gorge that weekend. Rhonda's depths a mirror to my soul. No Soraya sightings. The town had moved on. Her flat rented to a young couple with a baby's cry echoing from balconies. At the edge, necklace in hand, I whispered thanks, to the love that taught me, the pain that propelled me. Then let it arc into the void, silver glinting before vanishing. Free, Lena said, arm around me. Finally. Winter wrapped us in its chill, but our warmth held. We hosted a solstice party. Friends from the cafe, artists from the guild. Tables laden with roscon and stories swapped in Spanglish. Javier came, mustache twitching over wine, regaling with tales of that Voss woman, thriving in Cataluna now, sending postcards of her girlfriend's bridges. Laughter rippled, light as snow not yet fallen. Yet the humanistic core demanded growth beyond comfort. Lena's work took off. A commission for a Seville hotel's lobby, massive urns evoking the city's Moorish soul. Deadlines loomed, stress etching lines on her face I'd never seen. One night, she snapped at my suggestion to rest. You don't get it. This is my break, my proof I'm more than the potter's daughter. I backed off, hurt blooming, but recognized the echo. My own drives, Soraya's shadows pushing me to prove. Apology came next morning. Her hands in mine over cold churros. I'm scared, she admitted. Of failing you, of failing me. Then we'll fail together, I replied, kissing her knuckles. That's love's drama. Shared stages, not solos. We collaborated then, my designs etched into her clay. The urns blooming with vines and verses from Lorca. Poems of gypsy love, defiant and deep. The unveiling was magic. Guests gasping at the installations. Lena's name in lights, my illustrations in the program. She pulled me on stage, unscripted, dedicating it to the woman who sees my center. Tears, applause, a kiss that silenced the room. Romantic, yes, but earned through conflicts forge. Spring brought renewal, and with it, a letter from Soraya. Not drama, but depth. She'd started a non-profit, training women veterans in security trades, turning warriors into builders. Enclosed was a photo. Her and Marta at a site in Girona, hard hats and grins, arms linked. Your leaving saved me, she wrote. Grateful for the wrath it sparked. I framed it beside my sketches, a gallery of graces. Lena nodded approval. Full circle. Summer's heat peaked with our move. Upgrading to a house in the Macarena district, terracotta walls and a courtyard for her wheel, my easel. Packing unearthed relics. A pressed poppy from our first hike, Soraya's jacket folded neat. We donated it to the shelter, a full circle of giving. The move was chaos, boxes tumbling, laughter echoing. But in the quiet after, as we collapsed on bare floors with takeout tortilla, Lena turned to me. Marry me? Not papers but promises, here now under these stars. I said yes, sealing it with vows whispered to the night. To hold through storms, to create through silences, to love without substitutes. Fall festivals swirled us in color, the Romeria del Rocío, white-clad pilgrims on horseback, us joining the throng, hands clasped in the dust. Faith there wasn't dogma, but feeling, connection to something vast, humanistic in its humility. But life's script twists gently now. A pregnancy rumor swirled. No, not ours, but Lena's sister's, joy rippling through the family, pulling us closer. We planned a trip to Seattle, my roots calling, showing her the rain I once fled, the family who'd embraced my queerness late but true. Winter solstice again, our second. We lit candles for the gone. Soraya's Elena, my old self, shadows honored then released. The party grew, Javier toasting to women who wrathed their way to wisdom. As snow dusted the Sierra, rare ethereal, Lena and I walked the river, her head on my shoulder. 10 years from now, she mused. Where? Here, I said. Or there. As long as with you. Emotion swelled, romantic and raw. Love as the ultimate drama, climax in every quiet choice. The new year dawned bright, our studio thriving, exhibits in Lisbon, a book deal for joint work, clay and ink, stories from the South. Soraya sent congrats, a bottle of Rioja from her firm's cellar, to chapters co-written. We drank it on the terrace, toasting ghosts and graces. Betrayal's scar? Faint now, a line that told of survival. Spring's wildflowers called us hiking again. Paths once trod with Soraya, now ours alone. At a summit overlooking the gorge, Lena sketched me, wind tousling her braids. You're my horizon, she said. And you're mine. Summer sealed it. A private ceremony in the Danana, under cork oaks, friends and family witnesses to rings of silver and olive wood. Vows, echoed Lorca. I want to do with you what spring does with the cherry trees. No clergy, just us, humanistic, heartfelt. Soraya sent a video message, her and Marta dancing in Barcelona rain. You deserve this joy. All of it. Tears mingled with laughter. The reception, a feast of flamenco and figs. As stars wheeled overhead, Lena and I slipped away to the dunes, bodies entwined in sand-warmed embrace. Passionate, present, profane in its purity. Fall brought harvest, our first as wedded. Grapes crushed in a friend's vineyard, feet purple, joy spilling over. Family whole now, no whispers, only welcomes. Winter's chill soften with news. Lena pregnant? No, adoption whispers, a child from the shelter. A girl with wide eyes and warrior spirit. Our story grows, Lena said, hand on belly flat. Makes it epic. The cycle turned, drama yielding to depth. 10 years as substitute had been my prologue. This the verse, romantic, resilient, redemptive. Years folded like accordion pleats. Each season adding layers to the tapestry Lena and I wove. By the time our daughter arrived, Isla, named for the winds that carried ships home, we traded the Macarena house for a finca in the countryside near Estepa, olive groves rolling to horizons that felt infinite. Adoption papers signed in a Seville courtroom, her tiny hand in mine as a social worker smiled. She's lucky. You've built a world for her. World. The word, once Soraya's hook, now fit seamless. Motherhood was its own drama. Sleepless nights of colic cries echoing under rafters. Days of chubby fists smearing clay on my sketches. Lena thrived, her hands that shaped pots now cradling Isla's curls, singing lullabies and andalas that twisted my heart with their tenderness. She's got your eyes, Lena would say, hazel flecks sparking in the light. And your fire, I'd reply, kissing them both. But emotion's palette includes shadows, and ours crept in with Isla's first questions. Why no papa? Where's my other mama? We'd answer honest, age-appropriate. 2 moms, love in doubles, stories of women who chose each other. Yet doubt nipped. Had my past scarred this innocence? Soraya's betrayal, once mine, now a cautionary thread. The conflict crested gentle during Isla's 3rd birthday. A garden party with balloon-strewn trees and a cake Lena baked, lopsided but loved. A neighbor, well-meaning busybody, cornered me by the grill. Such a pretty girl. Shame no father figure. Kids need balance, you know. Balance. The word ignited old embers. I excused myself, found Lena in the kitchen, flour-dusted and fierce. They don't get it, I vented, voice low as Isla chased bubbles outside. Like our love's lopsided without a man. Lena's eyes flashed, Potter's hand steadying mine. Then show them balance, ours. Deep, dramatic enough. We did. That summer we hosted a workshop at the finca. Women artists, queer and straight, mothers and mentors, hands in clay and ink sharing stories of unconventional families. Isla toddled through collecting treasures, shards and stems, her laughter the true glue. Soraya came, unbidden but invited via old channels, Marta at her side, their own journey childless but content. She's beautiful, Soraya said. kneeling to Isla's level, offering a carved wooden bird from Barcelona. Like her mom's. Isla beamed, hugging her leg.
Antisare.
The nickname cracked us open, laughter through tears. We talked later, over vino in the courtyard, stars pricking the velvet sky. You did good, Parker, Soraya murmured, her hand on Marta's knee, triggering that wrath. It was the gift I needed. And yours, I replied, glancing at Lena tucking Isla in, taught me to claim mine. No betrayal lingered. Just bonds humanistic in their humility. Women lifting each other across chasms. Fall deepen with professional tides. My book series expanded. Andalusian Hearts, tales of lesbian loves woven through Spain's history, illustrated with Lena's textures. Reviews praised the raw romance, the drama without despair. Isla helped. Her scribbles on drafts becoming end papers, child's art as co-author. Winter brought a pilgrimage of sorts. Seattle roots revisited. My parents, softened by time and grandbaby photos, welcomed us with clam chowder and cautious questions. Happy? Dad asked, eyes misty over pie. Whole, I said, Lena's hand in mine, Isla asleep in the guest room. Spring's renewal mirrored our own. Isla's first words in English, I love you, Mama P. Her arms around my neck like vines. We planted a garden, tomatoes and thymes, teaching her Earth's patient drama. Seeds buried, then bursting. Summer's heat wave tested us. A finca fire scare, dry lightning sparking the far grove. We evacuated, hearts pounding, watching flames dance from a hill as bomberos battled. In the truck, Isla wailing, Lena's grip bruising. We'll rebuild. We did, stronger with community hands and Soraya's donation, her firm wiring funds for the fighters. Gratitude flowed back in letters, photos of new saplings. Fall harvest was triumphant. Olives pressed to oil gold as our rings, Isla's cheeks smeared with pulp as she helped the press. Family gathered. No whispers, only warmth, Lena's kin toasting to the grove that grows. Winter solstice, our 10th anniversary. Candles lit the courtyard, Isla reciting vows she'd written. I promised to share cookies and hugs. Laughter, then quiet. Lena and I renewed promises under the same oaks. Rings exchanged anew. Isla scattering petals like confetti. Emotion crested, romantic swell. No crash. 10 years, Lena whispered. And I choose you again. Every lifetime. The years accelerated, Isla blooming into a girl of 7, curious, clay-fingered, sketching ferociously like me, shaping with Lena's focus. School in Estepa brought friends, fiestas, her stories home. Teacher says families are puzzles, all pieces different. Pride swelled, humanistic hope. A world bending toward inclusion. Drama visited lightly now. A gallery dispute over my next book. Themes too bold for conservative buyers. Lena rallied. Bold as us. We self-published, sales soaring through queer networks, Soraya reviewing. Captures the heart's honest wrath. Summer took us to Barcelona. Guest artists at Soraya's nonprofit, teaching vets to draw their scars. Isla bonded with Marta over bridge sketches, Soraya and I hiking the Montserrat trails, talking old wounds healed. You're a mom, she marveled, pausing at a vista. Who'd have thought? The substitute? Yeah. We laughed, the gorge below a distant echo. Fall brought Isla's first crush. A classmate with braids and boldness. Innocent notes past tears when unrequited. We held her through it. Lena's stories of young heartaches. My sketches of love's many shapes. Like yours and Mama L's? She asked, hiccuping. Exactly. Shapes that fit even if they bend. Winter's quiet gifted reflection. A journal revived, pages for Isla. Tales of my 10 years softened for her eyes. Once I loved a woman who couldn't love back fully. It hurt, but it led me here, to you. Spring's wildflowers carpeted again. Isla picking bouquets for all the mamas. We picnicked by the gorge, not Rhonda's but our own nearby ravine. History honored, not haunted. Summer's feria swirled us in tradition. Isla and frills dancing with abandon, Lena and I stealing spins under lanterns. Soraya visited, her silver hair a crown, Marta filming it all. Family, she toasted, glass raised. Humanistic close. No grand tragedy but gentle triumph. Wrath transmuted to wisdom, betrayal to bridge. As years layered, Isla 10 now tall and thoughtful, her art in local shows. We stood at the finca's edge, sun dipping gold. Happy. Lena asked, arm around me, Isla sketching at our feet. Utterly. The story, once of substitutes and soldiers, resolved in romance's quiet roar. Love as the ultimate humanism, deep and enduring, American grit in Spanish soil. Epilogue whispers. Soraya's passing came soft at 68, heart not battle, letters to us all, Isla's bird carving on her nightstand. We flew to Barcelona, eulogy mine. She loved fiercely, fought harder, and in leaving taught us grace. Back home we planted an olive for her, roots deep. Life's drama continues, Isla's teens looming, our art evolving, but anchored in the choice, each other whole. 10 years triggered wrath. 30 bloomed peace. And in that, the truest happily ever after, not perfect but profoundly ours.